Hello everyone, I'm Pai. Now I have two lenses in my hands. They're Sony 50mm f1.GM and SIGMA 50mm f1.DGDN. Now let me go into a detailed comparison of these two lenses to see which one is the one you want. First, this Sigma lens is about 1mm higher than the GM, but the diameter is about 6mm smaller. Now let's compare the weight. The actual weight of the GM is 789.8 grams. The actual weight of the Sigma 50mm f1.DGDN is 750.5 grams. In terms of size and weight, Sigma has the advantage. Next, let's compare the function buttons on the lenses. On the GM lens body, there are AF, MF switches, EFL, and the ability to switch to a double-click aperture ring on the SIGMA 50mm f1.DN lens. In addition to AF, MF switching, EFL, and the ability to switch to a double-click aperture ring, there is also an aperture lock button. Therefore, it can more effectively prevent accidental touches. In summary, Sigma scores another point in the comparison of functional buttons. Now let me conduct an in-depth test on the image quality of these two lenses. Although both lenses have a focal length of 50mm, the visual effect of the images is different. Then I resize both images to the same size in Photoshop. Therefore, you can see that the blue box represents the field of view of the Sigma lens, while the red box represents the field of view of the Sony GM lens. So at the same position, the Sigma lens can capture more content in the image. Now let's zoom into 500% on the center position to see the image details. Both lenses exhibit excellent image quality when the aperture is set to f1.2, regardless of the aperture setting. The image quality of both lenses is comparable. Now let's compare the vignetting control. When the aperture is set to f1.2, both lenses exhibit significant vignetting. However, the vignetting in the Sony GM lens is largely eliminated after f2, while the Sigma DN lens completely eliminates it after f2.8. Now let's zoom into 100% on the corner position to examine the edge image quality. From f1.2 to f1.8, the edge image quality of the GM lens is slightly better than the DN lens. Starting from f2, the image quality of both lenses is comparable. Next, we will test the control of chromatic aberration in the case of frontal and backlighting. We can see that the chromatic aberration control of the Sigma DN lens is slightly better than the GM lens. After f2.8, both lenses basically do not exhibit purple fringing. Next, we will shoot directly towards the light source to test the control of flare and ghosting. It is clearly seen that, at an aperture of f1.2, the Sigma DN lens significantly outperforms the GM lens in flare and ghosting control. After testing, the Sigma DN and Sony GM lenses have comparable central image quality. The GM lens has better vignetting control, and the GM's edge sharpness is also better. However, the Sigma DN lens excels in chromatic aberration control and flare, ghosting suppression. In addition, the Sony GM lens uses 11 aperture blades, while the Sigma DN lens uses 13 aperture blades. Now let's zoom into the center and compare the imaging of the light spots. It can be seen that regardless of the aperture setting, the light spots of the Sigma DN lens are more rounded than those of the Sony GM lens. Now let's compare the light spots at the edge positions. Both lenses exhibit lemon-shaped light spots when set to their maximum apertures. At an aperture of f1.6, the light spots of the Sigma DN lens are more rounded compared to the Sony GM lens. Therefore, I would recommend this Sigma DN lens for night photography. Now let's take a look at the performance of the two lenses in video recording. It can be seen that the Sigma DN lens performs slightly better than the Sony GM in terms of breathing effect, almost without any breathing sensation. Both lenses utilize the fastest autofocus motors of their respective brands. The Sigma DN employs two HLA high-speed linear motors, while the Sony GM uses 4XD linear motors. In terms of continuous tracking autofocus, both lenses offer equally fast speeds. Finally, let's take a look at the retail prices. The Sigma DN has a retail price of $9,999 CNY, while the Sony GM has a retail price of 14,799 CNY. Finally, to summarize, this Sigma 50mm f1.2 GDN lens excels over the Sony GM in terms of weight, functional buttons, image quality, performance, and the backlight and bokeh performance. However, it is comparable to the GM in terms of image quality and autofocus speed. So, how would you make your choice? See you next time. I'm Pi.